figured just make another little video, I guess. We're digging a big bell hole today. This one's got a lot of rock. So I'm just starting out, but I'm gonna do some steps here at the beginning of the bell hole, so you guys will get to see a full set of steps getting made both sides. For all you guys that say it takes up too much production, I guess we'll see. Whether it takes up too much production or not, you guys need to understand that this is what not only our boss, the ditch boss, asked for, but also the gas company. They like steps also because they understand that they're safer. They're a lot more safer than ramps. I did dig a couple ramps this morning, but basically the material was just way too soft to make steps. You can still make steps in soft material, but it kind of depends on how far away you are from the tie-in crew and the ditching machine. There's a lot of things that play in a factor, so you just, to be a good hand, I mean, you just got to be able to make those kinds of calls on when it's a good time and when it's not a good time. But I usually make steps 90% of the time. Anyhow, we're gonna we're gonna make a couple steps today, and then as you can see, a little over half of our ditch is rock, so we'll be making some steps in rock too. They're kind of, this white rock, it's kind of really hard to see what the steps look like. So I'll start with the first step here. That one looks alright. So then I just basically go down, try to go down about, I don't know, 5-6 inches. Remember on my first video, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's talking about how I like to sweep it a couple times and it makes the step look really nice the more you. So you guys see it looks rough right there, then watch this. The more you kind of sweep it, the better it looks. So you can see right there. I do have another video about making steps. If you guys want to watch that one, you're more than welcome. This one, I'll probably cover pretty much the same stuff. So since it's rock, I'll probably cut it a little bit wider because it makes it easier to dig rock when you're a little over a bucket wide. So I like to usually slope the insides right here. Just slope it down a little bit because you know the steps are going to be a little bit further away. So we'll start this step here. You can see that PVC pole right behind my bucket. That's a pothole we did right below these steps. There's a 6-inch steel line. So what we've been doing is just potholing it, and then we mark on the PVC. We mark on it how deep it is for a reference, and then myself or my helper will double check it. I always get out and double check everything and make sure we're good. So there's that one. So you can see I'm right next to a jointed pipe here. This pipe's 20-inch fiberglass. It's They're 38 feet long, so I usually start my bell hole almost a full joint back. That way, by the time my steps get to the bottom of the ditch, we're right there where we need to be for the bell hole to land on the jointed pipe. Because what they'll do is they'll set this pipe in the ditch, and then they'll tie it in the ditch. Because right behind me, there's we're building an ARV valve system, basically just to purge this line. But they need a really long bell hole to build the ARV. So these bell holes are about 150 feet long, maybe, I'd say, and a little over a bucket, probably about a bucket and a half, almost a bucket and a half wide. So I pretty much can't do anything else right here, as you can see. I got this part, the beginning, pretty much done. So I don't back up very much when I'm doing steps or when I'm digging ditch. I usually only go back maybe 6 foot at a time, because I dig real tight. I like to be real close quarters, because that's where all the power's at, the machine. And the closer you are too, the machine's gonna turn faster when you're rotating to dump your dirt. Sorry about the vibration. This rock is pretty dang hard, but you should be able to get the whole concept of the steps. That's really what we're doing this for. That way you guys can just see how to dig your steps with the bell hole. So I had these guys pothole these lines the way I wanted it. And usually the way I do it is I do one pothole right before my steps, and then I'll do one pothole pretty close to the end of the steps. That way you just know exactly where, I'll know where that 6-inch line is at, so I don't hit it. This is probably my 200th bell hole I've done on this job. No, not really 200, but quite a few. And we haven't got anywhere close to that 6-inch. So as you can see, here's the PVC, and if you do a line across, you can see that it's about right here in the corner of my bucket. So we're already almost past that PVC, so I don't really have to worry about it anymore. Or I'm sorry, we're almost past that 6-inch. So we're already in that rock. This is gonna probably not look that great because of the way this rock is, but it'll probably turn out okay. So as I'm digging my steps, just keep pulling my sides down like that as I go. That way you don't have to come back and pull your sides down on top of the dirt will fall on top of your steps, and then you'll have to redo your steps again. And most of the time, the first time you make your steps, they're gonna look the best. If you have to go back over them and redo them for some reason, they usually don't ever look as good. But sometimes they do. It just depends on the situation. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do steps in the rock. If you know your machine really well and you know what kind of rock it is, you can hit it pretty hard and chip on it pretty hard and not break the whole step off. Like that, that's what I'm talking about. This rock is pretty dang hard. So if you got rock inside like this, and then just work your way in with a butter bar. I mean, you're not gonna dig rock too well. So again, we'll start right here. Just work our way in. Alright, so we got more done there. This part of the ditch doesn't really have to be too wide because our pipe's not going to land right there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you can see the end of the pipe right here. That's where the bell hole needs to be wide because that's where the guys are going to be. So where these steps are at, they're basically just going to be walking down to the bell hole. So right here doesn't need to be very wide. So I'll start on the inside again. Just keep working in like that. Pretty much got that step done, so start again on the outside, work my way in. Okay, pull my sides down. Make sure it's sloped enough. It's got plenty of slope on it. If you can't get enough slope on it, then you just put your belt and your hook on and hook onto the pipe and just move it over a little bit. Since our bucket's wider than the trencher, we have an old track. We call it the Snake. And what we do is we drop the old track in here, and then you can see right here there's a little bit of dirt. It's sometimes a real pain in the butt to get, and it's better sometimes just to leave a little bit of dirt right there. And then we have an old track that we call the Snake, and we run it through the ditch. We got to do it anyways because the trencher, when the trencher comes through, the bottom of the ditch isn't really flat anyway. So we're putting sandbags in the ditch, so the bottom of the ditch needs to be flat. So either way, we got to run that Snake through it. So right now, I'm just kind of cleaning out the loose dirt. I like to get full buckets. I'll take a little bit off these sides. Yeah, be careful because you'll end up knocking a whole step off if you grab too much. These big mainline jobs, I mean, a lot of times these guys don't say nothing to you if you do quality work. So I know a lot of you guys are, you know, of course a ramp is faster, but does it look as good? Heck no. Does it show your skills? No. You know, do the guys like them better, and the welders and the laborers, and is it safer? Yes. So we do the steps. Plus it shows that you care. And if you do a really, really good job, it shows how good you are. And, you know, people are going to want that on the next job and the next job and the next job. So it's kind of helping out with job security. Check back a little bit. Now I'm just gonna clear a bunch of this loose dirt out. And remember to always keep your spoil pile at least 2 feet away from your trench. That should be your company policy, but if not, that's OSHA standard policy. I like to do a little bit more because it gives the guys walk-in room and keep them clean of debris and dirt clods. That way the guys don't trip, because you know how it is. I mean, they could be walking next to the ditch and somebody drives by and asks a question, or who knows what happens, but they could just lose that concentration just for a minute, and they could accidentally step on a dirt clod and trip and go down into the ditch. So when you start trimming your edges like this, where your steps are going to be, you can really gauge where your bell hole needs to fall, where it needs to land, because you can see right here, you can see the end of the pipe. So I can really start gauging right now where my bell hole needs to be. I can tell if my steps need to be adjusted a little bit. They look to be pretty good right now. But that's why I usually like to make my steps a little bit long, because you can, if they're a little bit long, you can go back and chop them off a little bit and shorten them up. That way you can adjust your belt hole. I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a second once we get a little bit closer. I like my spoil pile to look nice. I've had an old inspector tell me one time, shoot, I was probably 20 years old when I was digging, and he told me one time, he said that you can tell a lot by a spoil pile if a guy cares about his ditch, because if your spoil pile looks like crap, he said more than likely the ditch looks like crap. So I try to make my spoil pile even, nice and even. And I mean, we all know that you can have a horrible looking spoil pile and have a nice looking ditch, but it's just nice to have everything looking good, you know, not just have a good looking ditch, but try to make your spoil pile look nice too. So I'm just touching up this slope a little bit, and then I'll start chipping away at this rock again. And I just let all the loose fall into the ditch, and then that way when I start dumping my spoil pile, I got full buckets. And I'm a little too far away, so I'm gonna track forward to this right here. And it actually makes it easier when you're sloping too. So on your final slope, always start at the at the top and work your way down, because as you can see, that dirt just kind of falls down. So you always want to start at the top and then work your way down when you're sloping. Alright, so I'll clean up these couple steps right here. Those ones look good. You know it's rocks, so you can apply a little bit of pressure to these to clean them up and not worry too much about breaking them off. So these ones are all pretty much cleaned up and ready to go. As you get deeper with this rock, it's crazy. It actually gets a little softer. So we already went through the hard part, the hardness. It kind of turns into like a chalk. Like I said, it's really hard to see. Not just for you guys, but even for me, it's really hard to see this. The depth perception is just really weird. Bottom. I like the flat bucket. My bottom just looks nicer. Gets all the little rock chunks out. Alright, so I'll clean this material out right here. We're almost done with the bell hole. It's been about 20 minutes. So I mean, I would say, 25 minutes for a bell hole that's sloped correctly, has some nice steps, and your spoil piles 2 to 3 feet away. That doesn't seem too bad. And I'm not even really going, fast. I'm just going at a normal pace and cruising along. All right, so I will start right here again, and I will pull my sides into the middle. You can see the end of the pipe real good right there. So that's where your steps land at the bottom of the ditch is going to be your widest part of the bell hole. So that's pretty much where you want your steps to end, is just a couple feet before the end of the pipe. That way the ditch is really wide. It's also good to know sometimes what your tie-in guys like. I mean, take the time and talk to the tie-in guys and ask them what they like, what they want, and work together, and everyone's happy that way. And that way you're doing good work too, because otherwise, if you don't know what the tie-in guys want, you're just guessing and you're doing what you want. So I'm just working around that PVC pipe right here. This is where that 6 inch is at, right below it. So I'm already on this side of that 6 inch, so I don't have to worry. Another good tell of if there's any kind of loaded line spot or not is solid rock. I mean, obviously there was never a trench here before if the rock's real hard. So I know I'm nowhere near that 6 inch steel line, because right here where I'm making the steps, this is solid rock, so it's never been disturbed. So I don't need to worry about any kind of lines being in here. That's one nice thing about rock is when you know the rock's solid and hard, you know for sure there's never been anything in there. So I'll run the bucket down like this one time, just because my spoil pile is kind of building up. I'll give me a sweep right here for my tracks. I like to stay level as possible. I mean, some guys don't care, but for me, the more level you are, the easier it is to keep everything symmetrical. I'm kind of like a, I guess you call it ADD, because I like everything to be even. I like things to be flat and not leaning to the side. There's our pothole guys. Alright, so I got my 2 to 3 foot of space right there, my spoil. My hose still not 100% flat, so I'm gonna take a little bit more out right here, so I get that track a little bit flatter. Alright, so this, like I was saying, material is a lot softer now that we're past it, so you don't have to, I don't have to chip anymore from the inside out. I can just make my steps normal. That's that hard stuff right there on top. Step's a little long, so I'm gonna chop it back just a hair. If you're just starting out on steps, I would suggest getting your machine as flat and level as possible. You can probably see that my machine is shaking around a little bit, which I don't like, but I've kind of gotten used to it a little bit, so I don't mind so much. All right, so I'm looking right now at my end of my pipe to make sure my steps end just a little bit before my pipe. That way when they lower the pipe in the ditch, they have room to work. And I'm almost done. I'm gonna have to go check on these pothole guys and see what they are up to. So right here I'm just applying very little pressure on these steps because the way this material is now below the hard stuff, it's real chalky, so it's actually really easy to break a step off. And once you do that, you're pretty much, I don't like saying the word screwed, but you're pretty much screwed, because you break a whole step off in the rock, you gotta redo it all. See that right there? So if that happens, I'll come up here like this, and I'll flat bucket it like that. And usually you can fix it to where it's nice and a nice cut again. I'm gonna try to get this little piece off here. the top. And I'll just run my corner all the way down real quick. Finish this slope up. That's pretty much it. Bell hole's pretty much done. I mean, whatever else is left is pretty much just because I am picky, I guess you could say. But you could honestly flat bottom it, move back from here, and you'd be good to go. You can see the end of the pipe, it's sticking out past the steps a couple feet, 2-3 feet. That's pretty much it, start to finish. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit here. All I gotta do is flat bottom it, and pretty much good to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know it's pretty long, 30 minutes, but that's start to finish, a complete bell hole with steps, 30 minutes. You can probably do them in 20 or 25 minutes if you, you know, aren't recording a video. It's about 8 foot deep. You can kind of see it good right here. All right, you guys. Appreciate you all, and that's how you do steps in a bell hole.